know you would cry. How do I know? Because I've done it to one of you fuckers in real life, and you have cried. You cried and apologized to me, and you even said that I made you feel like a bitch. I always call him Rusty Spoon, but I think his name's Rusty Cage.
The YouTuber Rusty Cage. It was implied that he cut his own head off.
YouTuber Rusty Cage may have decapitated himself via guillotine on a YouTube live stream. It's not clear if it's a prank or not.
I think Rusty's dead.
No, he's gone forever.
This guy just beheaded himself on a YouTube live stream.
Did Rusty take things too far by doing this?
From the unfettered corners of the dark web.
Why are white women always having sex with dogs?
A couple of guys who aren't afraid to tell it like it is.
If they stop making the kids so fat, then maybe the pit bulls wouldn't eat them as much.
They won't be censored.
Go ahead and cancel me. I don't work for you, asshole.
They can't be controlled.
I can say whatever I want.
This is locker room talk like you've never heard before.
It's called beating your children. It works.
This is not your grandma's radio.
How long can people possibly consume this garbage?
This is the Rusty Cage Show.
Are you serious, Rusty? You returned? Oh my goodness.
Good evening, godless sodomites. Hear these words in fear for your sin, for this is the Rusty Cage Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Rusty Cage Show! We are live on this fantastic Friday evening. I'm your co-host, EmpLemon, the E in Rust, E Cage, joined as always by the star of the show, Rusty Cage.
Hello, welcome. I hope everyone had an incredible year this year so far. I'm going to slowly pull this down as we begin the show, since I don't have an actual fader or anyone working behind the scenes to work any of this equipment.
It's okay. I hear that Samir is working very hard on getting those H-1B visas passed so that we can get more staff on the show as soon as possible.
Yeah, so this is the big news that's happening right now. Should we fill in everyone else on what we did wrong in the last episode?
Right, before we get to the news, we have a few things to cover here on the agenda. So last time on the Rusty Cage Show, we did our year in review.
Yeah.
And we received multiple messages from people saying that there were a few omissions from our list that we either didn't get to or were probably more important than what the producers thought. So
yeah, there was
quite
quite a few. I just kind of took notes of the most, I don't know, maybe the biggest ones that I thought we missed.
That's right.
The first, most terrifying, in my personal opinion, was whenever that door blew off of the Boeing airplane. I mean, we talked about Boeing, how they were found guilty for the 2 crashes that happened, but I completely forgot about that an entire door blew off of the plane while it was flying. No one got sucked out, though.
And we don't exactly have the exhaustive show notes this time, but yeah, basically, it's kind of a miracle. No one got sucked out.
I don't really know how the pressure in the cabinets work or like what their altitude was, but yeah, you would think, God, imagine sitting right next to the door. You have the exit seat, and they're just still having to land the plane. Like, you're probably tightening your seatbelt pretty fucking tight.
Well, you know, everyone, when they go to pick their tickets, usually they sell you the exit doors for a little cheaper, and they have more room. So the conventional thinking is, hell yeah, I get to save money, and I get the premium seats. And what are the odds that anything is actually going to happen? Well, I guess in this case, it did happen.
It's not a good year for Boeing.
And all of a sudden, those seats were not the deluxe offering that you once thought it was.
Yeah, I do not like flying. It is a miracle. It's a miracle you get to look out of the window and you can see the clouds and a vantage point that none of humanity has ever been able to see before 100 years ago. But I don't know. I know turbulence doesn't take down airplanes, but it just feels like it will at some point. And every time I go to the bathroom, I'm just waiting for the turbulence to hit. Like while you're pissing, or worst case scenario, you're having to take a shit, and then major turbulence happens. That has to have happened to someone. I'm surprised I haven't heard any stories of people talking about that.
I think every 3 years or so, a plane goes through a major turbulent airspace and someone hits their head on the ceiling.
Yeah.
Or...
But that just happened recently. An airplane went down. It wasn't in America, but it was just a few days ago. I think 30-something people died. But I saw a video of a guy who was like recording himself, praising Allah, saying how good he was, and kind of like a last message to his family, while all the interior panels were falling off of the plane and whatnot. And it crashed, and half the people died.
Only 30 people, though.
That's pretty good.
It's really, compared to any other accidents where planes tend to fall out of the sky, it's usually like a 95% fatality rate.
Yeah.
At least I think that's what's historically average.
Yeah, I do think it's a lot worse than the plane people, than the industry will ever tell you. Like, they probably want to hush-hush a lot of these planes that go down, and I do want to make a video about that at some point, about the nature of plane crashes and water landings, for instance. Because, again, in less than a week, I'll be flying to Hawaii, and that's a lot of water to go over. So if that plane went down halfway over the ocean, there's no way they're sending anyone out there. How long would it take for a boat to get out there? It would take 12 hours. Everyone's going to be drowned. So imagine the amount that it would cost just to rescue someone stranded in the middle of the ocean. They're not going to send out helicopters. Like, what's the gas refueling like? How many helicopters would they have to send? It just seems like it's a logistical and financial nightmare.
Seems like airlines are going downhill along with a lot of other formerly well-liked industries.
Well, speaking of currently well-liked industries, I guess, or complete dystopian nature, but also in 2024, the first Neuralink was put inside of what I assume is that very unfortunate test guinea pig that was a human.
Did we get an update on them? Like, how are they doing?
Fuck, dude, I forget. This was really last minute that I wrote all this down. But, I mean, he was on Joe Rogan. He was saying, what a great time he was having playing video games and using his eyes like an aimbot and whatnot. But, yeah, is that guy still alive? We'll have to look into that and follow up on it.
So this was what, like a quadriplegic person?
Yeah, I guess his quality of life was already quite low.
And the Neuralink at this stage, I guess it's designed to use eye tracking technology as a means of controlling electronic devices.
I guess so. I don't know. It kind of just seems like one of these fucking shams that Elon's bolstering to get a lot of investor capital. And who knows if it's actually going to... Eventually it will. You have to start somewhere, but I would not want to be the first person testing this.
I don't know. Did you see that video that went viral on YouTube of there's a neuroscientist, and the title of the video said, I'm an MIT educated neuroscientist and I quit my job to become unemployed?
No, why?
Well, it's like this video of an Asian guy, and he's walking around some trail in the Northwest. Kind of like a Downward Diary video, to be honest.
Okay.
But he was basically saying that he got disillusioned by mostly the medical industry, but specifically in his field.
You don't ever want to hear that.
Of neuroscience.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things he was specifically studying was like technological electronic brain interfaces. And he seemed to reach the conclusion that it was physically impossible to have any sort of system that's beyond just very basic and remedial. Like, it's not going to be something like the cyberkinetic cyberpunk future where you're going to have like a holographic screen pop out of your eyeballs and be able to just control everything like Minority Report style.
I could be very wrong about this, but it's quite possible, and in my soul I feel like it actually really is impossible technology. At least where we're at now, we could be at a very early stage in this, it might take 200 years before we figure out actually how to make some sort of biotechnology connect with our brain rather than just putting a chip inside.
According to my not very robust opinion, as not really looking into this stuff that much, my intuition says that in order for any of this to happen, you're going to have to first find a way to convert human consciousness into an electronic signal on a cloud and then apply computing power to it, because it seems like there are just certain limits of, I don't know, physics and chemistry with taking like wires and electronics and trying to get it to talk to brain cells.
Didn't Google just say that they came out with, like, they have some new quantum computing?
Quantum computer.
Yeah, quantum computing.
Yeah, apparently it's in just this undisclosed location.
Either the technology is way farther than we think it is, and they're only offering us little bits at a time while they use it to enrich themselves. Kind of like Aladdin. I think Larry Fink of BlackRock, they've been using some sort of AI for stock trading for a while, and it seems to have worked very well for them. And then later we get the Chat GPT that comes out and is kind of shitty, and it has a bunch of terms of service and community guidelines that are easily broken.
Yeah, we don't have the jailbroken technology.
Also, I feel really bad about this. We were looking through, I mean, the people at Cage Tech apparently did not do their due diligence, or they're not very familiar with American celebrities, but also in 2024, O.J. Simpson died. The famous hero of football, the juice man himself, finally passed. An innocent and free man soared right up into heaven.
Damn, he could have come out with some really funny tweets during the rest of the year if he had survived.
Yeah, he was pretty good at that. The Iranian president died in a helicopter crash.
So we could have had him on the in memoriam and in the current events.
Yeah, we're really fucking up here, so I apologize about that.
I think we got most of them.
Yeah. Well, we did miss one of the biggest pandemics of 2024. That is monkeypox. Now, you're saying before the show that you don't even remember this happening.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, people were mentioning this to us, and I feel like this was something happening in 2023, and maybe they tried to start it. I mean, avian flu is just the big thing now, so there's no need to even address monkeypox anymore. But I thought this was old news already. But apparently, did they try to start a monkeypox epidemic again?
It seems like they did. Yeah, it was like one or two other people got monkeypox, but isn't it only gay people that's getting that? It's like gay AIDS, where only people in certain communities seem to contract it.
I really don't know the statistics regarding who actually gets infected by monkeypox, but I just remember right when COVID was dying down and they were a little too afraid that the public wouldn't be freaked out all the time, constantly and paranoid, they tried to make monkeypox a thing.
Right.
And that lasted a week before people realized.
And now it's avian flu. Has anyone even got the avian flu? A few people in California or whatever?
A few people. I think avian flu is probably a far bigger risk factor than monkeypox.
So the suicide pod was also used for the first time. I believe that was in 2024. And I think I'd heard about this before. There's this whole thing with assisted suicide in Canada, trying to push people to kill themselves instead of offering them, medical assistance.
Now, so is this related to the assisted suicide, or is this literally like the gag from Futurama, where it's like a phone booth and you just go in when you feel like you're having a bad day and it kills you?
Yeah, it's a pod. It's an actual pod that seems like it is. God damn it! Every time you type, I just typed in suicide and then got
the suicide podcast.
The Suicide Podcast.
That was the autocomplete result on Google. Whoa, that's like a jet ski.
Hold on.
That thing looks sporty.
Let me get this up for them.
That thing looks like Y2K, futuristic, glossy, translucent material.
Yeah, that is cool. I mean, there was a design team. There had to be a design team that said, make this look like something that we can sell. Because certainly any color schemes wouldn't be necessary, or this sleek design.
Yeah, it looks kind of badass if you ask me.
Looks light. Oh shit, that's right. I remember what happened with this. The person who died in it they end up finding the body, and they did an autopsy on it, and they found strangulation marks around the person's neck. So the suicide pod didn't actually even do anything. It's quite possible that the person, the doctor or the technician, just strangled the person and then said that the suicide pod worked. Unless the suicide pod strangles you.
Wait.
This is going to get taken down, I believe, from all the times I just said.
No, well, folks, this is why it's worth tuning into the live, because we're not sure if this can be republished anywhere else. But was this not a closed test in a laboratory?
I don't know. I don't remember all that.
So, like, how do we know that anything they say is actually accurate if it's conducted? The research is conducted entirely by the suicide pod company.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I don't even know what country this was in. I should be a little more knowledgeable about these topics before I bring them up.
We're sorry, folks. We didn't get the show notes on any of these stragglers. Maybe if we get enough messages, we can revisit these topics at some time in the future, perhaps a little more in depth. But we're just trying, for posterity's sake, to get through these major events. This could end up being a very historic event in about 50 years in hindsight. Who knows? Do you think these things might be on like every block?
This happens a lot, though, where people who do work in cremation and work for whatever, like morgues and whatnot, they just misuse the bodies. They'll send ashes of just various things to families instead of the actual ashes of the family member.
That's probably a good topic to look into sometime in the future of the show, the death industry, like the immediate death industry.
Yeah, there's some really dirty shit.
The money behind morticians and funerals and coffin constructors. I bet there's a lot of information there that would be good to deliver to the people.
Well, it turns out that it's also going to be a very bad day for the Coomers, a very bad year going forward.
That's right, everyone.
Because
now, this isn't really in the category of stuff we missed, because this is news that's hot off the presses.
Yeah. So Florida has joined 13 other U.S. states in blocking Pornhub from, I guess, the state. I don't know if you just can't access it. I'm not sure. But the thing is that they say they want age verification for anyone to access Pornhub. And I've heard that Pornhub doesn't want to do that, or it's something to do with the amount of data they would have to collect, and perhaps they don't have the infrastructure to do that. But their age groups for Pornhub are very low. They're claiming it's 18 to 24. But a lot of things that they're looking for, that people are searching, includes things like video game characters and like cartoon shit, something that might indicate that perhaps these are younger kids on there. And so Florida, along with these states here, Kentucky, Indiana, Idaho, Kansas, Nebraska, Texas, North Carolina, Montana, Mississippi, Virginia, Arkansas, and Utah, have all blocked Pornhub because they are not complying with these laws that require them to have some sort of solidified age verification.
So is this a contingency thing where once the age verification gets put in place, then the websites will be let back online in these states? Or is it just some legal arbitration where basically until, I'm guessing there's legal court cases going on over this right now as we speak.
So, I mean, this is all according to the Hindustan Times.
A very reliable source of information.
Yes, of course. I'm not sure if they'll be allowed. Who knows what Ron DeSantis is trying to do? You can have a kid in a house safe, seemingly, and then you can have a predator that can be right there in your own home. You can be doing everything right, and they know how to get and manipulate these different platforms. I guess they're talking about.
I know Dr. Disrespect has a lot of underage viewers. That's an unrelated point. But anyway, this is going to be a dark day for a lot of people aged 13 to 17. Dark times.
Maybe I read this wrong. Florida residents will be able to access Pornhub until New Year's Day. Oh, no, that's correct.
All right, folks, the clock is ticking.
Yes.
You have a limited amount. This is the end of the year sale. We're talking about
No Nut 2025.
You got to get all the nutting out over the next 3 days, 3 or 4 days, and then you're going to have to go through your entire life or cross state lines.
Yeah. The the age of edging has begun, so if you want to end that streak, you're going to have to go somewhere else. Well, in kind of interesting news, the South Korean president has been impeached. Let me see if this is worth watching.
So there's been ongoing unrest in South Korea, and this whole time I thought it was because people were protesting BTS and all the K-pop people having to go into mandatory military service.
Oh yeah, that's funny though.
But instead, there's probably some real deep-seated political problems.
I remember when this was happening, whatever the issues happening in South Korea were, and they were all kind of coming down the president. Like he instilled martial law during a time of election. I'm not going to watch all 5 minutes of it, but maybe this guy will.
South Korean lawmakers have voted to impeach their acting president Han Duck-soo. He's the second president to be impeached in just.
He looks like he's not having a good time.
Of obstructing due process after his predecessor
Sleepy old
Yoon
Korean.
Suk-yeol was impeached.
He looks like Droopy the dog.
For briefly declaring martial law. Both former presidents will now face a ruling by the Constitutional Court, which will decide if the impeachment.
This news anchor has a very bearded face.
He does. He also looks like he's AI. Look at this. This is great.
Damn, that guy's just sitting there soaking it in.
Getting shamed.
The country's acting president. This is Han Duck-soo. He was elevated to the top job just 2 weeks ago.
It's like the Chinese Mitch McConnell.
I wonder if he freezes up.
You should put your hat on in solidarity.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I just can't do it with the headphones.
Oriental hat.
Additional Supreme Court judges. Speaking shortly before his impeachment, Han denied the charge and said he doesn't have the power to appoint them as an interim leader. Across town, the Constitutional Court that will decide the fate of the other suspects.
Okay, I think we get it.
Yeah.
He has a weird inflection when he's.
Across town. What accent is that?
It sounds Irish.
Yeah, it does sound a little Irish.
I don't know. This is what, Downward News?
Well, in other incredibly good news, get the fuck out of here. The U.S. To send $1.25 billion in weapons to Ukraine before Biden leaves office. So a lot more billions of dollars are now going to the war effort, the money laundering war effort.
We should just install a direct money printer in Ukraine.
Yeah, just let them do whatever the fuck they want.
Spits out money constantly.
Yeah, that's kind of fucked though, because Biden's doing a lot of shit before, Trump takes office.
Well, honestly, every lame duck president does this when
pardons a bunch of pedophiles.
There's a rival party coming in. They have to very quickly just do the most they can to say like, okay, look, here you go. We did the best.
I don't understand. All the pardons were pretty bad. I should have had a list of them because that was definitely newsworthy. But it was people who had terabytes and terabytes of CP, vicious CP, and some who were charged with actual acts themselves. And he pardoned them. That's not a good look, but I guess it doesn't really matter if you're leaving office.
What's unusual with the timing of that is that those pardons occurred at the same time that Luigi Mangione is basically on trial to receive the death penalty if convicted.
I still don't even know what to think about that. With every single day, it seems like something changes or something just seems off. Like they did the perp walk. We covered that last time, where they were walking him to trial, and it seemed like a huge show.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was supposed to be the authorities saying, look, we got him, or is this all an act? Is he actually the killer? Does he feel like he's actually going to go to jail? Is he an actual patsy?
It's bizarre. If they're trying to make people not want to be inspired by his actions, then they're doing a poor job because they're absolutely setting him up to be this huge martyr. If he gets the death penalty, what, is he just going to get pardoned by some president 8 years down the line? Because,
well, you wouldn't really know. I mean, it's kind of like a Timothy McVeigh type of thing where it was very suspect as to was he the actual guy or not who planted the bombs in the FBI building in Oklahoma City. And he was acting like he was a confused patsy, just someone who was kind of going through the motions, acting out his role as the person who got caught. Same with Oswald. He just seemed very confused. So it'd be an old playbook move if they just sent another dude out there to shoot, Mangione in the stomach, like Jack Ruby did to Oswald, and just kind of close the book on all.
Yeah, at this point, Diddy's in the prison, SBF's in the prison. They're going to have to blow up the whole prison, basically, to just make all this go away.
Give me the Epstein list. Give me the Diddy list. I want the Diddy list more. Epstein list, you can probably guess who's all on there. A lot of the same people, crossover people that are going to be on the Diddy list. But where's that story? That needs to come back. People need to be pushing for the Diddy list. Maybe that's what this whole show is just to... They'll give us a little bit. There's a death of this CEO, and the CEO, of course, was wrapped up in a lot of... insider trading charges, and he was being investigated, and Nancy Pelosi supposedly has something to do with it because she was buying into the stocks of the security company that was supposed to be checking all this. But it seems like they probably could have just killed Brian Thompson in order to create this whole narrative where now let the little people have their hero. Let them have their Robin Hood. They'll cheer about it for a little bit. They'll be wrapped up in that, and they'll forget all about the Diddy list. And then they'll wipe off Luigi Mangione or wait till the news cycle makes everyone forget.
I don't know if it was Vivek or one of the Trump future cabinet people. They did mention shortly after the election that they would be publicizing the Epstein and Diddy client list. So we'll have to see if they actually follow through. I think there's a scarce chance that they actually will. But who knows? It's odd that they would bring it up and then a few months later not do it. But...
Yeah, it's going to be quite odd whenever Trump takes office and they have to release the list and Elon and Trump's name is on it because they were there.
Well,
and RFK.
Maybe they'll release an abridged, edited version of the list that
redacted
specifically does not incriminate the people in the cabinet.
All right, so. Biden, should we go into whatever this controversy with Elon and Vivek is? You'll have to explain this to me because I'm very new to this. You just asked me about this yesterday. I'm still catching up.
All right, so over the holiday season, some folks weren't having a holly jolly time. Mm-hmm. Some folks took it to Twitter to argue about Indian people instead of enjoying the most festive time of the year,
Right.
So I believe how all this started is that someone brought up this point of contention where Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, that's the name?
Yeah, Ramaswamy.
Ramaswamy. So obviously, leading up to the election, they heavily started campaigning for Donald Trump, who one of his biggest party platform points of his agenda is that he's running on an anti-immigration, anti-migration policy.
Bringing the jobs back to America, to Americans. American-made. Right.
That's a stated purpose.
Right.
But in general, a lot of it comes from the idea that it's like people living in America, they don't like outsiders. They're xenophobic. And it really energizes that part of the Trump base to bring up the anti-immigration policy. But what happened was that I believe someone confronted Elon on Twitter basically asking him, so you teamed up with Trump who wants to deport all these people. He wants to get rid of all the migrants and all the Mexican people coming over the border. And yet you, Elon, and you, Vivek, you run companies that have been responsible for bringing in millions of people from India as tech workers on H-1B visas.
Yeah, the Indians are like the Mexicans, but for tech instead of construction.
So basically, people are bringing up this discrepancy where if you're really anti-immigration, as you claim, and you're all buddy-buddy with Trump, then how come you have not been applying any of that rhetoric to your very own companies that you control and oversee hiring?
It's almost as though It's almost as though hiring a multi-billionaire, the richest man in the world, supposedly, and an Indian guy who's also a billionaire to oversee these ventures. You shouldn't be surprised whenever they look for cheap labor in India.
That's right.
It makes sense.
Economically speaking, this is basically a higher order function of outsourcing. And this was obviously a big problem that affected the U.S. labor force in the 70s and 80s. You go through plenty of towns in the southern and Rust Belt regions of the United States, and a lot of towns simply died during these times because the labor force in many of these towns were company towns where pretty much 90% of the jobs were taken up by one factory.
It was Detroit.
It's Detroit, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Cleveland, plenty of places in Appalachia.
Yeah.
And this was a big deal in the 70s and 80s where the companies had gotten large enough and they'd gotten international supply chains where it was now cheaper and more feasible to hire inexpensive labor from overseas, and basically you can use...
Well, even before that, I'm not sure about, really about Detroit, but I know a lot of our manufacturing, we first outsourced to Mexico. And so we built this kind of booming economy in Mexico. This was, my timelines are all probably weird. So Mexico was doing great because they got all these jobs coming in and these new plants and industries coming in. And then we found that we can actually make more money by outsourcing that to places like China or India. And so when we pulled all those companies out, it just left this huge vacuum that allowed the cartels to come in and make that the major industry. It gave them all the power.
So obviously the corporations that still currently control our lives and have now infiltrated basically the highest level of government where they can influence policy directly, they're going to try to keep this as the status quo. Everyone always whenever all these political people are campaigning, and this has been something I've been seeing ever since I was a kid, during the Bush administration, you see some cherry red-faced politician come up on the podium and rile up the audience base, usually in some rural county or district in America, and they say, we need to create more jobs. This was a huge factor to why Obama got elected, why Trump got elected in 2016, where politicians started to realize, okay, there's like this whole huge group of the American electorate that are basically getting screwed. They know they're getting screwed by the corporate overlords who are basically going through this mass conspiracy to devalue the quality and benefits of American labor and unload the workforce, the workflow on second and third world countries where the exchange rates are hugely favorable to them, basically paying employees 10 cents on the dollar to get more or less the same bulk products for sale.
Yeah, you have to pay more if you want to have a stronger country that's not dependent on all these other industries. And essentially America's done that with pretty much everything. I mean, even with our recycling, we weren't recycling it, we were just selling it to China and they would just light it on fire, and then China stopped taking it and we're like, oh fuck, what are we going to do? So we had to sell it to India. We don't even have ways of disposing of our own waste, let alone building any of these products, or at least that's what we got into, and it seemed like that's what Trump was trying to get away from. But now they're arguing that that's what we need to do again because there's all these brilliant Indians and stupid Americans. Maybe I got this wrong when I was reading this earlier. So this person, Autism Capital, it's funny.
You are the media now, everyone.
Yeah. Can you read that?
All right, so Autism Capital tweets. So basically the right split into two factions, tech right and right. And the tech right is like, hey, we need H-1B visa people to do the jobs. And the right was like, no, you need to hire Americans. And the tech right is like, but you guys are retarded. And the right is like, well, you don't train us. And the tech right is like, you can't out-train being retarded. And while all this was going on, we learned some people really don't like Indians.
So in response to this, which seems like it's calling the right, it's just calling the right retarded. Like it's the tech saying the right is retarded. Unless I'm getting this wrong, Elon Musk replies back with, that pretty much sums it up. This was eye-opening. not good if you're trying to stay in touch with MAGA, with the group that just voted you.
Well, it doesn't really
not voted him, but voted.
Does it
his
really
president.
matter at this point, though?
No.
They did what it took to get elected, and now it's like,
Shysters.
well, we're not actually anti-immigration when it comes to these very specific instances that we directly benefit from as businessmen. But anyway, as I was saying before, what we're seeing now with a mass increase in Indian visas and Indian people making a huge portion of the tech workforce, you used to think that all this outsourcing would only affect blue-collar jobs and low-skilled people, because these were the people where you could easily come in and commodify something and make it so that it's just very menial labor that you can drill into people.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter what the standard of living of the person doing it is, as long as the job gets done and the output is correct, then the company doesn't care and they get to save all that money off the top. Well, now there is such a volume of tech jobs and computer coding jobs, which, while generally they require a great deal of intelligence, generally more than, I guess, assembling automobile chassis at an automotive plant.
Sure.
Basically, a lot of this stuff is sort of repetitive and menial as well. Like being a computer coder, and obviously I have no experience from this. I have family who does this job, and I've gotten this impression from them. And basically, you don't need to be like this visionary creative mind to do a lot of code. You really need to go in and brute force solve it like a puzzle.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's, as an employee of Cage Tech, I can't really be against, giving more jobs to the Indians. The Cage Tech stock is probably going to go up with a lot of layoffs.
Well, look, Samir is a great boss, all right? We like Samir,
Yes.
and we like Punjabi, and did Deepak get fired? I don't remember.
Deepak got rehired. I don't know exactly what he's doing, but yes, Deepak is now back in the company.
I see. Well, anyway, it appears that Cage Tech has taken a great deal of inspiration from Elon, and much of the upper managerial sect of Cage Tech is also these H-1B visa workers. But the point is, economically, the result is the same. Companies save money on payroll.
Yes.
And you think, how can that be the case? These people have been posting charts all week showing like the average median income in the United States by ethnicity. And Indian people were at the top, making about $150,000 per year. And you're saying if you're making that much a year, that's more than like probably 90% of Americans. How can companies possibly be saving money?
Maybe I'm not fully understanding what this says. So Sam Hyde had retweeted this. This is the quartering, talking about the top 0.0001%. Hotel cooks make $20K a year, need to be imported. So are they listed as people that this HB1 visa or whatever expands to, and it's just cooks, rather than the argument that it's all...
Now, would these be for a chain restaurant? Because I'm seeing a lot of hotels.
Yeah.
And as we know, what is the stereotypical hotel maid like?
The Indians have a huge, I believe it's Indians, have a huge monopoly over hotels. Like they came over in the 70s and just started buying up all these shitty rundown motels and whatnot, and then building them up, bringing their family over, hiring their family. And so like Indians own a shit ton of our hotel industry. Maybe that's a part of it.
Well, when you need a large unskilled labor force, but you need the job to be done here, it can often be easier to bring in people from a foreign country where, I guess officially in that case, they were registered, but it's very common to see a lot of illegal immigrant labor in these low-skilled positions such as agriculture and the hospitality industry.
Right.
Where you look at a lot of the people, if you ever stay in a hotel like past noon, and you start to see all the maids come out and go through all the rooms and get the linens and start packing up the stuff for laundry. It's clear that many of them don't speak English.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably unlikely to have been living in the United States for very long. And
they can't read English either because the thing on the fucking door says do not disturb, and they try to come in anyways.
Usually they're pretty good about that.
While I'm jerking off on the bed.
Yeah, well, that's going to happen a lot more now that Pornhub's banned.
So is this what we have to look forward to? These are our new tech overlords?
Well, this is what they have to do if they're not lucky enough to come to America on a visa and work for Google.
I love this video so much. He's going so fast.
No, scroll up and show the people the caption.
Okay.
Because I think that explains it well.
Yeah, he's not even going. He's just shaking his head. I mean, they do shake their heads a lot, but that's funny. So I think I'm going to try to take this video and... Sorry, let me turn this volume off. I think I'm going to take this video and then replace this one with it on a future show.
This is a great video.
Yeah.
I think this video says a lot.
All right, let's see these other ones that were sent to me.
There's a new genre of Indian people preparing food on... I guess people are sharing these as memes on TikTok because they're quite unusual and offbeat.
All right, I want to see what this guy's doing.
But I personally find them very entertaining.
What the fuck is he doing? No, this guy's good. So he's performing.
Yeah, so I have to wonder... So these videos have been circulating around and going viral for probably 3 or 4 years now. So I have to wonder how many of these are just a show.
I think so. I was thinking about that. Like a lot of the nasty street food Indian videos where, you know, the guy's putting the bread in his armpit, or he's using his foot to cut chicken, like his big toenail, to cut pieces of chicken. I'm sure there's very gross things that happen in India. I've never been, but some of these, I believe they're just making them insanely over the top because they know it's going to get views in America and then they can make money off of it. It was kind of like back in the day, someone covered this, and this is a little dark, but there was a lot of videos coming out where people would save a kitten from a dangerous area. Say the water was flooded and they were stuck in a gutter, or they were stuck in some precarious position, and then through the kindness of humanity, this heartwarming content, someone is able to save them. But the video that covered it was showing the backstory where they're actually putting these kittens and these small, cute animals in these precarious situations only to film themselves taking them out.
Now, it's worth noting that fake viral videos have been around forever, so this is nothing new, but as content gets more streamlined and people start falling into more niche and specific things, I just gotta imagine, has anyone here like been to India, and are the merchants actually like this, or is this all just a show for silly, dumb white people to scroll on TikTok in their bedroom in the United States?
Right, and say, wow, we got it good. Don't send those Indians over here. All right, we got another one.
This one might be the best one of all.
All right, am I cropped correctly here? I don't know if he does something. No, that's talent.
All that, and he just drops it anyway.
No, this is dope. This makes me want to go to one of these places. Good noise.
So,
dang, he dropped that. It didn't.
You're thinking this has to be. All right, you can mute it for now. You're thinking this has to be like a contrived show specifically to go viral. But then you look up on the ceiling, there are stress marks that I guess it's implied that this is part of the regular process for him making this mixed drink.
No, that's normal. It's like Cocktail. That movie with Tom Cruise in it. This is Coyote Ugly type of stuff where, bars in America will do the same thing.
Now, we do have hibachi restaurants in America where Japanese chefs do sort of theatrical things like this. Like I remember going to one where he was basically like juggling 3 eggs by bouncing them off the spatulas.
I want to learn how to do that. That's very impressive whenever they have the egg spinning and they're just tossing it up and catching it on the spatula.
So just know, anime people who want to discriminate against Indian people just based on their skin color, they're doing the same thing with hibachi restaurants. So this is not anything unusual.
We should do an episode on all these videos, on all these Indian street foods, because I think there's some comparisons to be made where we look at an Indian guy preparing food with his hand and it's disgusting. However, if we saw a guy flipping some dough without wearing gloves at a pizza restaurant, it'd be perfectly normal.
Or like Asian fish market workers tossing fish around and filleting them. As a vegan, as a plant-based individual, I find all of these equally disgusting. But it's clear that
pizza dough is disgusting.
It's clear that there's certain cultural biases that might be affecting people's perceptions. Anyway,
do we have any more to say about the HB1?
I guess there's more to talk about because a bunch of people got very offended, and 2 years ago there was Stop Asian Hate. And after all this, we might need a Stop Indian Hate. Who would have thought that after all this? It's very cosmically ironic because who would have thought that it's finally white Americans who are being offended that Indians are outpacing them and pushing them out of their way of life.
I mean, yeah, it's a time for it. It's going to suck whenever we have AI phone message systems that we're calling through, and you can't even understand those because they're programmed to be in strong Indian accents.
That's what we're familiar with now.
Right.
I mean, 25 years ago, The Simpsons came out with an episode where they're trying to pass anti-immigration legislation in Springfield that's going to deport Apu.
And they were successful, correct?
These conversations, they were not... I think it did pass in the show, but they got some reason to bring him back. I don't know. But the point is that these conversations are nothing new. But the history of America has always relied on bringing in immigrant labor.
Sure, the Yellow Scare, whenever we had all the Chinese coming over with cheap labor, building the railroads, and they'd work insanely cheap, and they were willing to risk their lives. And also, a lot of that money was just pulled out of the country and sent back to China, and so they just banned them from coming over at all. The Anti-Yellow Act or something like that.
Yeah, there was a Chinese Exclusion Act.
Yeah.
I think about 100 years ago, exactly. And it had to do with railroad construction, where the Chinese workers were so diligent that basically the railroad companies refused to hire any white people. But at least that's the story that we've been told. And that's similar things to what Elon is saying. I think he has a tweet, and Vivek has a tweet in the past few days basically saying that white Americans are lazy and they don't apply themselves in the same way that Asian people do.
It's quite a wordy tweet.
Right. I mean, would you like to read it, or do you think the people can just read it? The gist of it is that Oriental and Indian people in America, Indian immigrants, they have this strong culture of studying and applying yourself to get good grades and to go to a good school and to get a good education and eventually become a diligent, productive worker in a high-paying job. There's stereotypes about Asian tiger moms. I dealt with this firsthand growing up, where there's a heavy emphasis on the aptitude of the student, where you're supposed to, and there's almost a sense that you're preordained to become this successful, highly paid worker in either the tech industry or becoming a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer.
In a lot of different cultures, but maybe not as stressed in all the different cultures today as it used to be. Like the Germans were very industrious. They essentially built most of the American companies as America was coming into major prosperity.
My greater point with all of this is that, yes, Asian cultures, and I've experienced this firsthand, they tend to have a high aptitude when it comes to becoming a hardworking professional in the workforce. And there's far less emphasis on leisure, entertainment, and
it's the stereotype.
building social networks and sort of just enjoying life more. And that is a component, but I don't buy that this is the reason that 5 million workers from India have been imported into the US tech industry, because the United States, people growing up in the United States and people who have an aptitude for becoming an engineer in the United States, they still have a ton of resources. And if you ask me, I don't think differences in stuff like IQ or anything like that is enough to account for the sheer amount of visa workers coming in. I don't buy that they're that much more talented at these specific tech jobs than United States-born engineers and coders and computer programmers.
Well, teach them how to code a public toilet.
Yeah. Teach them how to
code a sign that goes on a beach that says "Do not shit here."
Now, Rusty,
send them up to Canada.
That's a harmful stereotype, you know.
You saw that though in Canada. They're the friendly, open to immigration, polite Canadians were saying, "Okay, now it's getting a little filthy on our beaches, so maybe we can do something about this."
Rusty, I think the situation going on in San Francisco and Los Angeles and many of the U.S.'s great cities, we no longer have a right to complain about other cultures pooping on public streets.
Yeah, you're right. All right, well, we've talked enough about this topic. It's a little dry. That's pretty much all the news that's happening right now that I know of.
That was the news segment. We have a news segment, not to be confused with the news segment.
Are we going to have a new?
We have a new segment that we're going to be debuting here today called Show and Tell, where basically Rusty and I are either going to show you something or tell you a story. Well, everyone knows how Show and Tell works. It's basically just that. So,
well, what did you bring? Do you have something to talk about, or are we showing off our items?
Well, on this episode, I happen to have a show and a tell.
Great.
And I will do the show first. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the new profile picture for the Rusty Cage Show. No, I'm just joking.
Just two clowns.
This is a crying, sad clown photo. Yeah, show that up there in the good lighting.
Well, that's very beautiful. Where did you get this?
I happen to get this from, I guess I'm in this free Facebook free group where people just give out free stuff in our local area, and I guess someone's parent died and they had a collection of clown paintings, and in this case,
that's pretty tight.
I was able to just pick this up for free. I went to a retirement home, and I guess they had the clown image in storage there. So basically, do you think that's what they heard before they died?
This is what I brought to show.
Oh.
It's an Aztec death whistle.
Well, now is that... I've heard that there are authentic versions of those.
I don't know if this is authentic. I do want an authentic one, but I'll have to do some searching to find it. Do you want to try it?
I don't know. I don't know if that's COVID safe.
Oh, you're right. All right, fine, fuck it.
Well, anyway.
I'm sure that blew out the mics. Sorry.
I guess we have a clown and an Aztec whistle now. We're probably going to hang this up in the studio. It kind of looks like Rusty and I, if you look at it closely. And after all, aren't we all just clowns for your entertainment?
Yeah, I'll put it up over here.
Yeah, but I feel like this is going to make pretty good decor for the show. You know, when I picked it up, I guess the aggrieved children were still, I mean, they're like middle-aged adults, but the children of the person who died, who owned this clown painting, they were kind of adamant on making sure that the painting was going to someone who actually cared about, I guess, the legacy of clowns.
What's this again? Do you know who painted it? Who's that? D. O. Hammer or D. Hammer?
I don't know. It looks kind of cool from the back, also.
Yeah.
Yeah, and basically, they mentioned this to us multiple times when I went to go pick it up, where they said like, "Oh wow, we're so glad we finally found someone who cares about clowns just like my father did," and basically, they seem to take clowns very seriously. It's kind of an oxymoron, as is depicted in the image, where it's a serious, sad situation, but it's centered around clowns, which are here for our comic amusement.
Yeah, I think I'm going to try to go to the Gathering of the Juggalos this year, so I'll probably choose one of these two characters to do my face painting as.
Anyway, I'm hoping to honor the legacy of this clown photo, because I do really respect clowns. That's why stuff like the Joker is such a cool character in concept. It reflects the duality of man, as you can see. A clown whose entire life purpose is to entertain and bring joy to the world, yet they cannot bring joy to themselves. I think this says a lot about society.
Okay. Well, thank you, I appreciate you bringing your clown painting. I will drill a fresh hole in this concrete wall behind me, and we will hang it up for the next show. Well, we're kind of running out of time here. You had another story besides?
All right, so this is the show. Now here comes the tell.
Okay.
So this, Rusty, is a story about how I traumatized an employee at Wawa.
Okay.
So Wawa is a local chain. It's actually endemic to the Philadelphia area, but for some reason they started building a bunch of them down here in Florida. Yeah, so I think the first Wawa to get added to our town opened up sometime in 2019.
It's overrated.
Is it now?
Everyone loves Wawa, but there's no reason to like it. It's just a gas station with a limited supply of things. I'm not really sure what the hype is.
Now, Rusty, as someone who personally used to eat a lot of gas station food, I can say that Wawa and their food offerings is certainly a step up from pretty much any other gas station chain, at least in Florida. I can't speak for some others. I know that out in Pennsylvania, you have a competing grocery store, or not grocery, gas station food convenience store chain to Wawa called Sheetz, and that's popular in the Pittsburgh area.
Yeah, I've been to Sheetz.
You've been to a Sheetz?
That's what I got when I ate the food there.
Oh, wow. I got Giardia from an old hot dog at 7-Eleven. It's part of the reasons I'm plant-based today. And basically, Wawa, for a gas station, which is really what it is, it is about as good as the food can possibly be.
Okay, so it's good food at Wawa, and you traumatized an employee there.
All right, so as we know, excuse me, sorry, it's just the avian flu acting up.
Of course.
As we know, I'm plant-based, everyone. I don't think I say it enough. And sometimes when you deal with fast food, it's hard to find things that are plant-based. Almost everything on the shelves and for sale at restaurants, convenience stores, it has some degree of milk or meat.
Or egg.
Or egg.
Yeah.
Gelatin's another big one that disqualifies stuff from being vegan. And that's in just about every... So you have to be very careful, you know. And so Wawa's big attraction is that they have these sandwiches which are called hoagies to them. I don't know if anyone else on Earth calls them hoagies, but
Everyone calls sandwiches hoagies.
It's a sub.
Yeah, that's a very common name for a sub.
In Florida, they're called subs, but I guess Wawa, since they're based in Philadelphia, they call them hoagies. So I started ordering the hoagies because you can mix and match the specific ingredients, and I can make my delicious vegan treat. So you go to they have the
pickle and mustard sandwiches again.
We're getting to that, Rusty.
Okay, all right.
We're getting that, but
I was just wondering when.
Look, there's context behind this story.
Okay.
It's not as much of a horrific situation of ridicule as everyone has been treating me every time I tell this story to people. But they have these touchscreen kiosks at the front of the Wawa where you order your sandwich. It's very convenient, actually. I normally don't like the touchscreen self-checkout at most restaurants. I prefer to talk to an actual human. But Wawa had a good system down before they integrated this. I guess there was probably a lot of troubleshooting in the Philadelphia area before they expanded to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, you go through and you touch and order your hoagie, and then you choose your bread and then all the toppings that go on it. So it ain't easy eating plant-based, but I make it work.
Yeah, you're a real soldier.
I carry the flag for all the plant-based people out
Clowns.
there. You know, Rusty, if you ever watched The Joker, you know what eventually happens when you push a clown around too hard.
He gets raped in prison and becomes a show tune.
Okay, maybe not that. We're talking about the first Joker.
Oh.
Which probably was roughly the time this incident happened. Joker came out. But anyway, so I decided that my option for the sub, I would have to get the bread and then spinach, tomato, onion, and pickles. And then some sauce, like mustard and buffalo sauce and honey barbecue. Mm-hmm. Honey, by the way, is disputed among vegans. I personally think honey is acceptable to eat because it is created out of a byproduct of, basically a waste product of the bees that doesn't involve really killing or torturing the bees to collect.
Sure, what about milk?
There's a lot of problems with the milk industry, Rusty.
Sure.
But that's going to have to be a conversation for a different time. Anyway, so I'd get something that it would look like a sub from probably about 10 feet away, but then as you got closer, the laymen, or normies, as we call them, they'd probably start to ask me oh, where's the meat? Where's the cheese? Basically, it's a sub sandwich without meat and cheese.
Uh-huh.
It's really not that complex. And no dairy-based sauces like mayonnaise or ranch dressing.
Okay, I think we've established the story so far.
That's right. So I'd order this sub probably 6 or 7 times. And then one day, I guess I was running late to something or I was very busy. I had a bit of a brain fart situation at the Wawa kiosk. And it basically ended up in me not ordering the spinach, onion, and tomato.
Okay.
And so basically the order that ended up getting put in to the Wawa the Wawa system was a sub with pickles and sauce and nothing else.
Okay.
I just ordered a pickle and sauce sub. And apparently this was a little unusual. It was a little bit unusual. I had it. Delicious, by the way. I say don't knock it till you try it. But every person I would describe this to would give me this complete disgusted look on their face. Like I'm a total giant freak for ordering a pickle and sauce sub.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, the pickle and sauce sub. So it's just a pickle sandwich. It does seem like something that someone with someone who doesn't have a good understanding of emotions might eat.
Maybe.
Autism.
Autism?
Yes. plant-based autism.
Possibly it was a stroke of autism that day when I ordered the sandwich, but it was good. I say you don't knock it till you try it. Everyone I told that I ordered this thing completely ridiculed me, said I was the biggest idiot freak.
These are
ever.
people in the store saying this?
No, these are.
How many people did you tell about ordering a sub with just pickles and sauce?
Probably 3 or 4.
Okay, all right.
And if I recall correctly, you were one of them, and you ridiculed me and made fun of me and mocked me.
Yeah.
For ordering this pickle and sauce sub.
How old is this story?
This happened probably about 5 or 6 years ago.
Oh, fuck. Okay, so what happened with the employee that you terrorized?
Well, this is the funny part. I kept thinking to myself, these are the people, they just don't get it. Well, what's the big deal with me ordering a pickle and sauce sub?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's right there on the machine. You're allowed to order it. And it's not like this freaky, inedible thing like the guy on Instagram who posted the picture ordering like the nothing and half sausage pizza.
Oh, God, please get to the point. This story has been going on for 20 minutes and it hasn't even got up to where it begins. This is a lot of exposition.
We're almost at the ending.
Oh, shit, okay.
Well, anyway, the point is, a few days after this, I went back to the Wawa and I was just waiting for my meal. I ordered the correct sub this time. So it's not like I specifically provoked any sort of alarm. But as I was waiting for my meal to be delivered at the food prep area, I overheard the cashier telling another employee about this freak that came in the other day and ordered a mustard and pickle sub.
Well, that was you though, or was it someone else?
It was me.
Okay.
It had to have been me.
Okay.
Because apparently, I guess this is like a 1 in a million type thing.
Yeah.
Where no one would have the balls to go into Wawa
and order what they actually want.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was one of those Truman Show situations.
Did you get that bitch fired for disclosing client information?
No, that's one of the things where you just got to let it play out because it's one of these surreal situations.
So you're ordering a sub and she's over there saying this fucking freak, this weirdo, just ordered a pickle.
She basically starts like, oh, the other day the strangest thing happened. Like this weird guy came in. And he
ugly.
He ordered a sub, and all he wanted was pickles and sauce.
And then you had to check out.
Well, I just kept a mental note, and I guess I've been saving it to disclose to everyone on this very show today.
All right, next episode we're gonna make some pickles and sauce subs.
Maybe I should order it again. And we can review the pickle and sauce sub.
How many can you order? Get like 10 of them.
10?
Yeah, let's have a party.
I don't know about that.
Well, I'll order 5.
I don't think the Wawa subs have a very long shelf life. They're meant to be eaten like almost immediately.
Oh.
But anyway, that was like a Truman Show moment. Where they were telling this story, obviously at my expense, and I was sitting right there, and they didn't know it was me.
That's pretty funny. How did you terrorize them?
Well, it was like days later, so I figured that this one order and them putting together this bizarre system of ingredients, it stuck in their memory. It stuck in their memory so much that they wanted to tell the story to others later, publicly, so that they could share this experience that happened to them. And I have a feeling that
this is going to be something that people talk about for generations, possibly.
Yeah, I'm gonna go down as like this legend at that Wawa, where I'm like this mysterious mythological figure who ordered a pickle and sauce sub. I have a feeling that I guess this was the person who made the sub the first time, and when they were assembling it, it must have given them an existential crisis about the state of consumerism and just where they were in their life, because they're probably sitting there thinking like, I'm getting paid near minimum wage to assemble a sub for some freak who wants pickles and sauce on bread.
All right, well, that is a good story, and I think we should follow up on the pickles and sauce. I'm going to try one myself to make sure that I'm not judging you too harshly on this retard sandwich, or hoagie, as you call them. Well, we're getting close to the end of the show. I guess I'll just kind of quickly go over this. So yeah, in the next few days, I will be traveling to Hawaii per Cage Tech. They found it in their hearts to fund a trip where they want me to up my game and get out of my box and do more viral type of content. So they've booked a shuttle for me to fly up into the sky and then jump out of an airplane and skydive, which sounds very terrifying personally.
That's right, Rusty. I also received the memo. And while this may seem like a nice frivolous vacation to reward you for a show well done in episode 1, I think I should probably disclose to you what this really is. Is a stress test for the new model of Cybertronic component that currently houses your mechanical consciousness.
Fuck.
Yeah, the company felt it would be prudent to sort of try to avert any other future problems and malfunctions while the live camera is on right here by intentionally placing you in a very stressful situation.
Well, speaking of malfunctions, I was doing some research, and I don't know how true this is, but I saw that 1 in every 1,000 parachutes malfunction, which is not very good odds. Now, I know there's backup parachutes, and I'm not sure what the odds of them failing are. I'm not really sure how to do that math, but it still doesn't seem good. I don't even like being on airplanes because I'm afraid that the planes are going to crash. But now I'm just jumping out of one. I've not been on a full-size roller coaster. I've only rode the little baby roller coasters because the vertigo and the
Rusty,
fall makes me sick just to think about.
See, this is what Cage Tech has been concerned about. Any sort of malfunctions related to your simulated ideas of anxiety and fear.
So possibly this could be one of those moments. There's 3 options. 1, I die. 2, it's a rewarding experience, and I feel this sense of strength that will allow me to conquer other challenges in life without fear. And 3 is it's a very horrific experience. I piss and shit myself on this tandem jumper who's hopefully pulling the chutes, and I never want to do it again. And it just makes me frail and mentally weak.
And in 2 out of those 3 scenarios, you will be replaced with the more technologically advanced Cage Tech unit.
Well, that's good news, I suppose. I did see that they paid for a package that would film it all, so there will be footage, probably for the next show. And hopefully I'm able to deliver that footage to our producers.
It should be a good, entertaining product for the next show and tell segment.
Chat, since we are live, put a 1 in the chat if you think that I'm going to live, and a 2 if you think that I'm going to die. And on that note, unless you have anything else to say, maybe we could start winding this show down. Did we cover everything?
Well, unless everyone wants to hear more about my pickle and sauce hoagie.
Yes, of course. Continue. I'm sorry, I did cut you off, and I feel bad about that.
You know, you think that mixing 2 vinegary and acidic things together, such as pickles and mustard, would create an overbearing experience for the palate. However, one would find that these 2 flavors actually complement each other quite well. The crunchy texture of the pickles, undercut by the soft, crispy nature of the toasted hoagie roll, it ends up producing this rather ethereal experience, one in which someone could lose themselves bite after bite as the sub is gradually consumed. Sometimes these things go to show that life's greatest benefits actually come from mistakes, because it was a mistake, an error, that I neglected to order the onion, tomato, and spinach that I normally would get. However, the result ended up being much better than I expected. So I guess it goes to show that sometimes it pays to take, run with the mistake if you make it. It might not be that bad after all. And hopefully, you'll give an entertaining story for others to tell in the future.